The colonel was sitting in a strange-looking craft, anxious to get started. After over 2 years of planning and training, he and his team were finally going through with it. He looked at his teammates, who were also sitting on small benches and sealed in a protective glass bubble. They were all excited with a little bit of apprehension about the unknown. However, they are ready and eager to get going. The interior of the alien craft is big, much bigger than they had trained on. They stored all their cargo in the lower level. They sat in the center level, and the alien crew sat in the upper level. The walls are strange looking. They seem to be dimensional. There are no windows, so they can't see out. The hatch closed, and what looked like lap bars came down and secured them in their seats. The craft's engine starts, or what they call energy thrusters. It seems like they're moving, but nothing is happening inside. Suddenly, the team all starts showing signs of dizziness and disorientation. So something's not right. The colonel started second-guessing his decision. Then they all blacked out. Most everyone has heard of Roswell, New Mexico, and the alien spacecraft that crashed there in 1947. Oh, you mean that weather balloon? But did you know there was a survivor? The crash was actually in Corona, New Mexico. An archaeological team spotted the craft a day after it happened. They contacted the sheriff, and he showed up to investigate the next day. He found an extraterrestrial biological entity, EBEN, hiding behind a rock. It was given water, then transferred to Los Alamos. It was an illegal alien. The EBEN started communicating using a translation device. It told them of the location of its home planet. The EBEN asked if they would retrieve something from its ship. It was a communication device it used to contact its home planet. ET phone home. The device was located and brought back to Los Alamos, and the EBEN was allowed to make contact with his home world. He also showed the scientists how to work the device. The EBEN lived until 1952. The humans continued to contact the aliens through the communication device after the EBEN died. Eventually, an exchange program was established with the aliens, in which a team of astronauts would go to the aliens' planet to research, get scientific information, explore their culture, and engage in galactic diplomacy. The EBEN sent back a message indicating they would return to Earth on whatever date and location that we chose. The date was April 24, 1964, and the location was in the southern sector of White Sands Missile Range, New Mexico. Government officials met in secret to plan the event and had 25 months to prepare. For the government, they're going to need more time. President Kennedy approved a plan to exchange a special military team. The Air Force was assigned as the lead agency. They picked special civilian scientists to assist in planning the mission and crew selection. The team member selection process was tough, and it It took several months to decide on the criteria for each team member. They ultimately decided on 4 main factors for qualification. They must have at least 4 years of military service, must be single with no children, must have special skills, and most importantly, must be open-minded. Originally, 56,000 applications came in. Applying the qualifications to that narrowed it down to about 500 people. I'm guessing the single with no children qualification is probably what brought the number down so much. Those 500 were fine-tuned down to 160. From there, the cream of the crop was selected. 16 total. 12 for the mission, then 4 alternates, just in case one of the originals were injured or released for some other reason. 8 were United States Air Force, 2 were Navy, and 2 were U.S. Army. They consisted of 2 doctors, 3 scientists, 2 language specialists, 2 security personnel, 2 pilots, and 1 leader, a colonel with U.S. Air Force. No engineers? Man, they must not watch Star Trek. Each selectee went through the most difficult and demanding training in the world. The training period lasted about 6 months and was brutal both physically and mentally. In one training test, each team member was locked inside a 5-foot by 7-foot box, buried 7 feet underground for 5 days with just food and water. Where did they shit? No contact with anyone else and in total darkness. All 16, which including the pinch hitters, had to go through the training. Most of it was similar to astronaut training. The pilots on the team learned how to fly the EBN craft. It wasn't hard, and they picked up on it pretty quickly. On April 24, 1964, the EBN's craft entered Earth's atmosphere. After some confusion over the coordinates, they eventually landed in the right place, at White Sands. The EBNs exited their craft and gave gifts of technology. They had a crude translator. It appeared to be some sort of a microphone with a readout screen, similar to an iPad mini with an external microphone. They gave one to a senior official, and the EBNs held the other. The officials spoke into the device, and the screen showed a printed form of the voice message, both in EBN and English. It was crude and hard to understand everything that was said. Have you ever tried to use Google Translate? The EBNs agreed to the exchange, but not until the following year. The team were present, eager, and ready to go. However, it was set for July 1965 at the Nevada test site. In April 1965, the team was isolated at Fort Leavenworth and continued the same training. This gave the team an opportunity to better understand the EBN language, which was very difficult. In July 1965, the EBN craft landed at the predetermined site, and the EBNs exited the vehicle. The team was escorted on board the craft. Over 90,000 pounds of their equipment were also loaded onto the craft. The interior of the craft was very big. It had 3 levels. It had strange-looking walls and no windows. heard the hum of the engines, and it felt like they were moving, although they weren't sure. They started feeling dizzy and lightheaded. I hope they brought Dramamine. About 6 hours later, they flew into the bay of the rendezvous craft. It was huge. The ceiling was at least 100 feet high. It took them 15 minutes to walk to their quarters. When they arrived, the Ebens gave them something to eat. It looked like mush or oatmeal, but tasted like paper. Sounds like paper mache. They decided to stick to the MREs. Afterward, the team was placed in chairs and a glass dome was sealed over them. They could still breathe and see out, but that was it. Man, economy seating sucks. The whole team was dizzy and sick with upset stomachs. Medicine was handed out by the doctors on the team, and they felt better. Later, the Ebens came into the room and adjusted something on the control panel, and the confusion and dizziness went away. The Ebens brought them some of their food. The team didn't like it. It didn't have any taste. Their water is milky looking, but tastes like apples. Strange. Apple milk? They estimated they had been on the ship for 25 days. They had to leave the glass dome in order to relieve themselves and figured out how to open the sphere. But when they did, they all got sick. Really sick. Dizzy, confused, and couldn't walk. They had trouble pissing and moving their bowels. Give them a newspaper. An Eben came in and pointed a bluish light on their foreheads. They felt much better after this. He also brought in small jugs of the milky liquid and made a motion for them to drink it. At one point, one of the pilots on the team had a medical emergency. He died during the trip. According to the team doctors, he suffered a pulmonary embolism. A senior Eben entered the room and advised that everything is functioning properly and we will feel better once the craft gets out of this time wave, as he called it. It doesn't seem like it's functioning properly. They asked to see the engine room. The Eben took them there. It contained very large metal containers. They were in a circle with the ends pointing in towards each other in the center. Many pipes or large tubes connected them. They heard a very dull hum, but no major loud sounds. The team's scientist thinks it's a negative matter versus a positive matter system. At last, after 9 months of travel, they arrived at Serpo. The planet was a little smaller than Earth. The atmosphere was similar to Earth. It had carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. It was in the Zeta Reticuli system. The temperature stayed between 94 and 115 degrees. It was very hot. The radiation levels of the planet, due to the sun, were a little higher than that of Earth. Think summer in Florida. They were careful to cover their bodies at all times and wore sunglasses similar to those worn by the military for watching atomic bomb explosions. They walked down the ramp and a large number of E-bins were waiting for them. They saw a large E-bin, the largest one yet, approach them. He started speaking to the team in the E-bin language. Another E-bin translated for him in very broken English. He gave a "Welcome to Serpo" speech and motioned them to follow him. I assume he's the leader? They are led to an open arena. It looks like a parade field. The ground is dirt. Looking up, they can see blue skies. They see two suns, one brighter than the other. The terrain is very similar to Arizona or New Mexico or Tatooine. They figured they were in the main village for the E-bins. In the center of the town is a large tower. It looks like a concrete structure. It's very large, maybe 300 feet. It seems like a mirror was placed on top of the tower. All the buildings look like adobe or mud huts. Some are larger than others. The team continues looking around. The brightness is too much for their eyes without sunglasses. Looking around 360 degrees, they see buildings and barren land. They don't see any vegetation. Well, where do they grow their food? While taking in everything, an E-bin approaches them. This E-bin speaks very good English, almost fluent. However, it can't pronounce the letter W. It must be German. They find out she's a female. They call her E-bin too. She takes them to what could only be described as a chow hall. All the E-bins ate here. One of the team noticed a different looking being in the hall and asked E-bin 2 about them. E-bin 2 said they are from another place like ours called Korta. She pointed on a star map to the location of the creature's home planet. It was very close to Earth. Once the team arrived on Serpo and got settled in, it took them several months to adjust to the atmosphere. During the adjustment, they suffered headaches, dizziness, and disorientation. On one of the team's first expeditions, they encountered their first alien critter. It looked like an armadillo. This creature was extremely hostile and tried to attack the team several times. The E-bin guide used some type of sound device to scare it away. Just shoot the damn thing. During another expedition into the northern hemisphere of the planet, the team discovered numerous types of animals. The strangest was the beast, which looked like a large ox. Another animal looked like a mountain lion, but had long fur around its neck. This animal was curious, but was not considered hostile by the E-bins. The team found a very long and large creature that appeared to be a snake. This creature was deadly, as explained by the E-bins. The head of the creature was large and contained almost human-like eyes. The team killed the creature and dissected it. The internal organs were strange and nothing similar to an Earth-style snake. Its eyes were very similar in structure to the human eye. That's not creepy at all. The creature measured 15 feet long and about 1.5 feet in diameter, so about the size of a Burmese python. The bodies of water on Serpo did not contain fish. Some bodies did contain strange-looking creatures similar to eels, about 8 to 10 inches long. The team was not restricted by the E-bins. They could travel as they wished and see whatever they wanted to see. The E-bins have a very structured life. Each individual E-bin family contained a male, a female, and at least one child, although they never saw a family with more than 2. The team members were always allowed to accompany the E-bins wherever, except during the rest period when the E-bins closed their doors for privacy. Their homes were constructed of clay, some type of material similar to wood, and some metal. The houses all looked the same. They appeared to be something from the southwest, like adobe. The interior of the house consisted of 4 rooms. One sleeping room, where all the E-bins slept in the same room on mats. A food preparation room, so kitchen. A family room, the biggest in the house. And a small waste room, shitter. The E-bins did not have a physiological need to release body wastes as humans do. The E-bins had small collection locations in the residence for their body wastes, like litter boxes. But the E-bin's body was extremely efficient in processing all food taken in. Their body waste consisted of a small amount of fecal matter, similar to a small cat dropping. And the E-bins didn't piss. On the other hand, the team members' waste consisted of a bulk quantity of both fecal matter and urine. The E-bins had to dig large waste reception sites for the team members' waste. I don't know why, but I just think that's funny. The one common food that E-bins and team members liked was fruit. The E-bins ate a great quantity of fruit. The fruit, although different from anything they saw, was sweet. Some of the fruit tasted something like melons, while others tasted like apples. The water on Serpo contained a number of unknown chemicals found by the team. The team had to boil the water before drinking it. Think Montezuma's Revenge. Seeing this, the E-bins built a large plant that processed water for the team. Oh, that was nice. A Serpian day lasted 43 hours, not 24 hours. Every E-bin worked on a schedule, which was not by a clock, but by the movement of their sun. Each little community had a large tower which filtered the sun through, similar to a sundial. When the sun was at a particular point on the tower, it meant the E-bins had to do a particular thing. There was never complete darkness on Serpo. It got dim, but not dark. The E-bins had rest periods, but not like our sleep periods. The E-bins rested 3 times during their Sundays. That's still working about 14 hours straight. So they obviously weren't union. The E-bins also didn't have months or years. The population of the E-bins planet was about 650,000. They lost several 100,000 in the Great War that lasted 100 years. The war was fought using particle beam weapons. There were leaders, but no real form of government. There was virtually no crime seen by the team. There was no money. Every EBIN was issued what they needed from central distribution centers. So no stores, malls, or shopping locations. Who was their leader? Putin? Children were kept very isolated. The only trouble the team members got into was when they attempted to photograph EBIN children. The EBIN army politely escorted them away and cautioned them not to do it again. The EBIN civilization was estimated to be about 10,000 years old. They evolved from another planet. The EBINs first visited Earth about 2,000 years ago. They were extremely intelligent. The team estimated each EBIN's IQ to be about 165. The EBINs buried their dead, similar to our method. The EBINs worshipped a supreme being, and they conducted daily services, normally at the end of the first work period. Large buildings were used to harvest food products. The soil wasn't rich in a lot of minerals. EBINs used a form of organic agriculture to harvest food items. Hydroponics! Their music sounded like tonal rhythms. They also enjoyed listening to a type of chanting. There were no televisions, radios, or anything like that. Each EBIN had a small device belted to their waists. This device gave orders to perform a task, news of pending events, etc. The EBIN energy device provided the proper current and wattage for anything that required electricity. The team surmised the device had some sort of regulator that sensed the required wattage needed and then supplied that specific amount to the item. I need that for camping. One of the team members had an accident and died. The team doctors examined the member's body and determined the injuries were consistent with an accidental fall. Initially, the EBINs never interfered with our care or offered to provide any of their medical care. However, once the EBINs, very benevolent and caring people, saw our team members crying, the EBINs stepped in and offered to attempt some sort of medical care. After a while, the EBINs finally made a sign, placing both their hands on their chest and bowing their heads. The team members knew that meant the body was dead and nothing more could be done. During the last work period, the EBINs had a ceremony for the dead team member, the same ceremony used when an EBIN died. The team was eternally grateful for the EBIN's caring attitude toward their dead friend. After 6 years of living on the equator with the EBINs, the team moved to a northern portion of the EBIN's planet, where the temperature was cooler, between 55 and 80 degrees, and contained ample vegetation. Well, that's more like it. This was too cool for the EBINs, or at least most of them. The team did find EBINs living in the north, but in very small villages. The transportation used by our team was similar to a helicopter. The landscape reminded everyone of the Pacific Northwest. One team member had coined it Little Montana. The team found rolling hills with trees similar to the evergreen style of Earth trees. These trees were milked by the ebens to provide the milky substance they drank. Ew, tree spooge. The team continued to explore the northern hemisphere, where as the team traveled towards the North Pole, the temperature cooled considerably, and they saw snow. The time had come to return home. Of the 10 team members remaining, 2 of them decided to stay on Serpo. They had fallen in love with the culture of the ebens and the planet. They were not ordered to return. Communication with the remaining crew members lasted until 1988. After that, no other communication was received from those team members. For the remaining 8 team members, nearly the whole village saw them off, like the Beverly Hillbillies. They were on a newer eben craft that was much faster. The return trip only took 7 months instead of 9. They were also more accustomed to space travel and didn't get as sick as before. A few still got a little nauseous. In August 1978, they made it back home, 13 years later instead of 10. The team brought back hundreds of samples of Serpo soil, vegetation, water, technology, and other items for testing. The 2 team members who died were brought back in coffins and given a proper burial. The remaining team was debriefed and quarantined for 1 year at a special facility in Los Alamos. Oh man, that would have sucked. After 1 year of isolation and debriefing, they were given new identities, a large bonus, and the offer to return to military service or retire. 6 decided to retire, and 2 remained on active duty. All 8 are now dead. The last one died in 2003 in a VA hospital. As we come to the end of this incredible journey, it's hard to believe that it's been over 58 years since the mission to planet Serpo first began. Back then, the world was a completely different place, and the idea of sending humans to another planet seemed like science fiction. But thanks to the tireless work of a dedicated team of scientists, engineers, and astronauts, we were able to make the impossible a reality. The mission to planet Serpo not only expanded our understanding of the universe, but also demonstrated that amazing things can be achieved when people work towards a common goal. As we look back on this incredible achievement, I can't help but feel proud of what we've accomplished. But we also know that there's still so much more to discover, so much more to explore. And I'm confident that with the same spirit of curiosity, determination, and collaboration that drove the mission to planet Serpo, we'll continue to push the boundaries of what we can achieve in space and beyond. I'm going to close this out with an interesting observation, kind of like a bonus if you stayed on this long. During the final segment of the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where the humans go back with the aliens, remember that part? They kind of walk on the ship with them. There are 12 people. I find that strange that Spielberg got that number exactly correct. It's not a coincidence. After President Ronald Reagan watched a special screening of the movie, he privately spoke to Steven Spielberg and said, "You don't know how true this really is."